Hey Mohit, so awesome to be doing this with you. Thank you for joining in today.
Hey, Deepak, thank you for having me. Looks like a fun talk.
Absolutely. Mohit, we have known each other for a few times now. I remember the first time we met was at the Eightfold office. At that time, it was called Work Science. And you had worked in Bloomreach before that, I remember, and you were doing your own startup when we met, Opus.ai. But I was going through your profile and I think you have worked in phenomenal companies. I was trying to see what names would I not find in there. So Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Rubrik, I think Bloomreach, Instacart. So a bunch of these big tech brands and startups. What I had for you was how have all of these experiences, including starting your own company, shaped your approach to, your career, innovation, and leadership overall?
Yeah. I think I learned a lot from all of these companies and thankfully a lot of different things. And primarily it was because of the stage of the company. These companies were in different domains. Some were B2C, B2B, B2B2C. But one primary characteristic that I found that was different was the stage of the company. And the stage of the company that dramatically changed what the company needs. What I found is like smaller companies, the processes, these could be your hurdles. You are typically working in a team of 10, 20, 30 people. It's very easy to get the whole company together, go over all the open items, all the issues. There, setting a process is probably not the right thing. On the flip side, when you talk about companies with tens of thousands of engineers, the bottleneck becomes you. You can't be there in each and every meeting. You can't be there in each and every decision. So as much as you want the decision to be democratized, you also want to make sure that the basic guiding principles are being followed when someone else is making the call. And that's where I found like these processes, these actually help. So there are like multiple things that I learned from all of these companies. But one thing I felt, there is no right or wrong answer. When someone is coming from a large company to a smaller company or the other way around, they find these different. And the first initial reaction is that it's a different setup and you need to unlearn everything. Probably whatever you were learning were not the right things. But if you think a little deeply, you'll find like a lot of time there is a reason behind it. That's what it has helped me when I have jumped around these different size companies. How do I adapt myself to what the company needs are at the time?
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I remember like I have not worked in as large of companies as you've worked in, but in larger companies there are processes and processes of processes, and you have to learn how to delegate and make sure everything is being followed to the T, right? Versus small companies where you're setting up everything from scratch. So it's pretty cool. Like throughout your experience, were there any moments that were very pivotal for you in your career that significantly changed, your thinking about life or your trajectory overall?
Yeah, a lot of time I would say like all of us when we join our first job, but when we see a dramatic shift in the personality, in the learning, like that defines the trajectory, that happened with everyone. Another one that happened was 7, 8 years back when I started my own company. I have been an engineering and product guy all throughout, and I found a newfound appreciation for sales. So far, like before that, I used to think product and engineering are the primary backbone of any company. And sales is needed, but their job is probably not as complex as hard. We think like building product, building product, building these components, these technical components is hard. But what is harder is probably selling it, asking someone to pay for your product. Is order of magnitude harder task than building something. I'll say that when I was starting to sell my own product, saw it firsthand. And then there is a dramatic difference when you're part of a bigger company, when the whole machinery is set up for you that can help you sell versus when you're an early stage startup and you are selling your own product. None of those things exist. It helped me gain a broader perspective of the overall product, overall journey, overall putting things in perspective that everyone has their own place and all of these things are equally important. If sales not being more important, these are equally important.
I'm sure all the go-to-market folks watching this would have loved the last minute of what you said. Selling is a magnitude harder than building because it's often underappreciated, right? And when you do your own startup, I love it when like technical founders like build companies and they have to step out of their comfort zone and learn how to market and sell. It's a completely different skill set.
Exactly.
Cool. Awesome. So I want to move on a little bit towards AI and engineering innovation in general that you have seen happen in your career. Have you been working in AI, Mohit? And then if you have, like, what drove you towards AI, and how has your AI, roles changed over the years?
I think the first time I picked up an EA project was in Amazon. I don't think it was more of that I consciously picked it up. We were trying to build some functionality for which one of the engineers suggested that it's best to build models rather than deterministic code, and it just happened. I think over time, almost all the companies from Amazon, Groupon, Instacart, Rubrik, Bloomreach, now Instacart, I have had teams that focused on AI, and I think that the core fundamentals of AI, they haven't changed. Like from a 20,000 feet perspective, if you think it's a dramatically different way of implementing anything. In your regular implementation, what you're doing is it's a deterministic thing. You execute, you implement the algorithms, you know for this input, this is the mathematical function, or this is how you go from A to B. So you implement it, you execute it, and you get the answer. AI, on the other hand, is both liberating and challenging. Liberating from the perspective of you don't need to understand those mathematical functions. You don't need to understand the how. You need to define this is what my output should look like for this input. Challenging from the perspective, it's a non-deterministic system. And you're not going to get 100% of the results right for the same input, same scenario, because the whole universe is not same. Something somewhere probably has changed. You're not going to get the same exact output again. So how do you build products that can leverage the capabilities, the power that AI has given? Building applications is a lot easier now because you don't have to understand, which means that from your productivity perspective, you can actually do things like a lot faster. But at the same time, making sure that from a product perspective, you are able to get the same accuracy that you are used to in a deterministic world is a hard problem. So far, this was being done for your ranking, those things. If you change ranking, no one else will notice. But when you're asking it to take an action, if the action is not 100% accurate, the user won't be happy. So how do you make sure you now strike the balance that you are able to leverage the gain without making sure, while making sure that your product quality remains same as earlier?
Yeah. Very interesting. I was just thinking of humans also as you were speaking. Like, as humans, I would say we are also probably non-deterministic, right? Like
Yeah,
when you give a task to humans, everybody does it differently. And similarly, AI. So the possibilities of doing a lot more, like many more tasks, is a lot more using AI. We just have to be okay with AI not doing it the exact same way every single time, as opposed to like deterministic systems.
exactly. And that's where I think like you will see that adoption to non-technical users may actually happen faster than the technical user. And the reason is, like you were saying, like humans have been non-deterministic. When you grow up, you are observing your surrounding, and that's how you're learning. It's only when you get to a very structured environment, you are taught this way of doing it. And we have seen basically a change where AI used to be only a tool for the MLEs and the data science user. Now, I think that the overall application, the user base is expanding just not in terms of numbers, but also in terms of personas who are using it.
Very cool. Very cool. So Mohit, you're right now, I think, working at Instacart in the advertising team is what I could look at from your profile. Do you use AI at Instacart today? If you do, like, could you talk a little bit more about the use cases?
Yeah. I'll say like broadly three categories. And one of the categories has been there for a while now, accelerating. The other two categories are almost run new. The first category is product enhancement, which is not something new. This has been around for a while. But I think overall, the pace at which we are able to now build models, leverage this model, have increased a lot. I'll give you a specific example. Just a few weeks back, we launched a new model that improves overall ads relevance. About 6 months back, we used to have a fixed number of ad slots. These are the maximum number of ads that you can actually fit in. When you're trying to balance between your advertising revenue and then relevance. Since it's a fixed number, you would try to basically leverage that along. What that would lead to is sometimes when the ad's relevance is probably not the best relevance for this particular keyword, but since we are trying to utilize that ad slot, the ad will still appear. On the other hand, there will be some lot of relevant ads that would not actually show to the user just because we have hit that limit. So we built a new model that takes into account all of these inputs from ads to search to relevance ranking and trying to see if we can optimize for the user, taking all of these inputs into account. This model we launched a few weeks back, and the results are amazing. So there are a lot of such initiatives that are happening all throughout Instacart. Then my teams at ads, the core experience, check out all of these teams who are leveraging AI for overall product enhancement. The second category, which started more recently, about a year back, but has like really picked up the steam in the last few months, is around productivity. And this is using lot of AI tools with our own instance of chat GPT kind of chat interface where you can look up at information across multiple sources, leveraging Glean, leveraging Cursor for coding productivity, transcription. So a lot of these tools, there are a lot of Slack channels now where engineers, product managers, GTM, business analysts, data analysts, they are posting how are they using these tools to enhance their productivity. And there is a lot of focus from company perspective, not to just let it grow organically, but how do you grow it in a structured way so that each and every one of us is leveraging that tool. The third category, which is probably the most interesting, but at the same time, unfortunately, I cannot talk a lot about it, is defining the future of shopping, grocery shopping in our case, but like shopping more generically. We strongly believe that agents will play a fundamental role in this. How do we make sure that we are best suited to leverage that? That's something that we are also working on.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how the third use case comes up, although the first two are also pretty intriguing. Yeah, the second one, employee productivity in general, has been such a big use case for so many companies. It's probably been the fastest use case, right, of AI
Yeah.
in. Cool. So moving on, want to understand a little bit about building products users love, right? You have worked in so many different companies and would have seen so many different philosophies of building products. When it comes to you, Mohit, what are your guiding principles of building something that users value truly?
I stick to first principle a lot. And this is one of those things that is so fundamental, so core, so important for any product. You want to go to the first principle. From first principle perspective, you need to have a really deep understanding of what a user is trying to do. What is it they're looking for, what their pain points are, and not just understanding, but being in their shoes, trying out the product, figuring out this is the pain point, this is how they're feeling, this is how their use case looks like for the problem that you are trying to solve. The first few customers that you want to launch your product, you want to be sitting next to them for the first few months. I feel that a lot of time we follow a very waterfallish approach for product development, even though we are trying to do on the engineering side, making sure that it's very iterative. But on the product side, I've seen that like a lot of founders, a lot of engineering leaders, they take an approach where the whole PRD, the product requirement doc, the function spec is written. Then the engineering team will go and implement. Then you go show this to the customer, and then you actually get the feedback. This is a very expensive way. This ends up taking months, and one of the most useful input that you want to get is actually completely lost in there. Like not lost, but you're getting it too late in the game. Sitting down with your customer, understanding their pain point, explaining them their solution. And actually, I'll take a step back. Like explaining them your solution, probably like not at the risk of understanding their problems. What I've seen is we a lot of time go solution focused. This is the solution that I have built, and either force the customer to modify their problem for this solution or ask leading question. Versus you don't want to do that. You want to go with a clean slate. You don't have a solution. You really want to understand the problem. Then show them your solution. Then see what is it that actually resonating with them? What is it that they're not interested in? So getting very close to the user until you get to the product market fit, until you get to the scaling stage is one of the most important thing that when you're building anything for user, you should be.
Very, very important. Yeah, I agree with you on that completely. And you have moving on from product market fit to like you have seen products being built at very large companies with billions of users, right? So maybe even from an engineering lens, when you're building products at this massive scale, right? How do you like think about performance and latency and how do you structure and architect those kind of products typically?
Yeah. So you see, there are two kind of challenges that you face now from scaling. In the earlier world, there used to be only one challenge, which was around scaling. We'll talk about scaling. But the other challenge is just because of this probabilistic nature, there is another challenge, which is around fairness, the accuracy of your system. Just building a system that can actually work for billions of users is not sufficient. You need to figure out that you're able to provide the same level of response to all your users. There have been numerous PR debacles just in the last 1 year. A lot of these large companies, in terms of query, in terms of generating something, they'll actually generate something which they were not supposed to. And this one in a million case will become a huge issue. On the scaling side, the tried and tested methodology. Start with a prototype. Don't worry about scaling. First figure out the product market fit, any decision that you are making in terms of your technical design. If it is a reversible decision, then don't focus a lot on scalability at that aspect. Focus more on finding the right product market fit. If it is an irreversible decision, then making sure it's a conscious choice that you do invest in building framework, building templates, building platforms where you can build on top of it. You do want to strike the balance between, you don't want to take like a year to build out your first product, but at the same time, a lot of time your product grows so fast that you'll not get a time to actually research. Figuring out which decisions are reversible, which decisions are irreversible, and irreversible decisions, spending a lot of time like what BB are you using, what does your data schema look like? What does your data model look like? Which cloud you will be on? What are the things on cloud versus on-prem? These are like very hard decisions to change later on in the game. You do want to make sure that there you're spending a lot of time. Now, in terms of what your actual UX would look like, if you're building data pipelines, should you use this platform versus another platform? These are comparatively easier decisions that you can actually go and change. So figure out reversible, irreversible, spend a lot of time in getting them right the first time. Reversible, don't over engineer, don't build for scale right away. The second problem, which is the interesting problem, is more around how do you make sure that your accuracy, your fairness when you're using these AI systems is pretty high. Think of the same test-driven development environment that we have been taught in the conventional world, where you're supposed to write down your test cases before you write down your code. Similarly, before you build a model, think about before you're going to test this for a wide variety of different use cases. Think of the golden test data set. Think of if you are going to use humans in the loop to look up at your overall accuracy, your overall precision of your response, set them up before you build the model. If not, then you run the same risk where your test cases, your scenarios will be heavily biased by the model that you're building. And unfortunately, you may try to build a model that doesn't have a bias, but your training data set, as we expand, natural training data set is biased because the way it is connected, you will see more examples of a certain use case versus another. And these AI models, as good as they are, sometimes they actually lose that nuance. If you are training a model with a certain characteristic only being present less than 0.5%, you actually train it 10 times based on like taking the output and feeding it as an input. After probably a few times, you'll actually lose that signal altogether. The diversity does models, they actually don't lose diversity if by default you're not actually being conscious about that. So yes, those are some of the things that you want to do right from the beginning to make sure you can.
Very cool. Very cool. So moving on a little bit, I want to understand in terms of, product roadmap and AI innovation, right? So one question I have for you is, every company is dealing with this right now, right? Bunch of companies have applications built, some are building agents, but you have like if you have a company with hundreds of customers and they're all demanding different things, and you have your AI vision, you see AI agents and you see disruption in AI happening. So how does one balance out customer asks, which are probably non-AI, with some of the AI stuff that you want to do, and what's like your philosophy there?
Yeah. So fundamentally, this problem is very similar to this old problem spending on infra versus feature. Every time you want to build your platform, you want to make your platform robust. There is a healthy challenge with product, with business, with features. Should you invest in this feature or should you invest in the platform? What I found is figuring out a currency that you can use to evaluate all the projects of different shape and size helps a lot. And this currency could be what is the long term value that this is going to add to the customer. Depending on the stage of the company, you may have like a different definition of a long term. If you're a Series A company, there is no point in thinking about 10-year long term value for the customer. The first thing is you need to make sure that you get the first 10 customers, otherwise, you won't even exist. So, their definition of long might be very different from companies that have been around, that will be around for a long time. Figure out like a currency that you can use to compare different projects, whether it is your AI first or feature. That being said, what I found is just like when you are building these AI model, if you do everything just from theoretical perspective, there are these unknown biases that you wouldn't understand, but it will actually force your model to go in one direction. So similarly, your prioritization to go in one direction, because you'll be assuming something. You'll be assuming this particular feature or this particular platform will get me black. And those assumptions might be wrong. You may be looking up at 3 month, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year horizon, and that might be wrong. And even a small delta in this can dramatically change your prioritization. So I do firmly believe that have a lower bound on some of these things, a lower bound on feature, a lower bound on your AI tools, a lower bound on your infra investment. And this could be, at the very least, I want to spend 20% time in each of these. And the remaining 40% is something that I'll actually use to go through a regular prioritization framework. It does sort of like take your maximum benefit, maximum advantage away. That if you had bet basically the whole company 100% on the AI, you would have achieved better than betting 80% of the company in the best case scenario, 60% of the company in the scenario, best case scenario. But I do feel it strongly protects your downside and as a guiding principle when you're trying to not follow it, but more so consciously rather than every quarter you're dramatically changing the roadmap. Has helped me, I think, Instacart and that earlier company.
Interesting. Yeah. I've seen different companies try to do it different ways, but this is a very good, principle, guiding principle. I think some companies try to create separate AI teams, say, go figure out the AI product, launch a separate product altogether. Yeah, I think if your core product is good enough and is defensible enough, then you're probably just adding AI features on top of it, and you don't have to get so worried about rebuilding everything from scratch. So moving on, you've seen a lot of products out there and some of them get adopted, some of them don't, especially in the B2B space and some in the B2C also. So can AI boost product adoption? How can, like, if somebody is building AI to do that, what are the use cases and what have you seen?
Yeah, I think it will definitely boost it. Think of 2007, 8, whenever iPhone was launched. iPhone not only created a new market, but even for the existing application that were out there, it actually boosted the adoption of it. Why? Because multiple reasons. One of the reasons was more intuitive interface. And I feel that from a user perspective, there are tons of things that AI will do. It will add more features, but it will also, like for the same existing feature, even if you're not adding anything new, it will make the product more intuitive. The interface that you're going to interact with these applications will change dramatically, just like we move from a click to a swipe. Similarly, natural language, both in conversational chat as well as voice, will become more and more important. And for a certain class of application, just your environment, the visual input that you are getting, that will become an input. And these things fundamentally change that. If you think about it, if there is a magical way someone can understand this is what I really want to do, they can definitely do things a lot better than me taking my mouse, dragging it, interacting with basically a workflow. I think like a lot of these AI applications will change the fundamental interface, how we are interacting with the existing interface of the websites. I don't think it will completely go away, but the new interface will dramatically change. So that's one big reason why AI will boost productivity. I think the second and third are like similar reason. I think the rate at which new features will be added because of the productivity gain, that will dramatically change. I do expect that like within a few years, it will be 10x of what it is right now, which again increases the adoption rate. The faster you are able to ship, the more delighted your customers are going to be. And the last one will be probably just the kind of users you'll be able to reach out to. I think AI is enabling new applications, new use cases, which were very hard, which were just not possible a few years back, or they were possible, but the ROI on them was not worthwhile for someone else to invest in. As the productivity improves, as these models, as all of these things become more of a commodity, you'll see a lot of people with the domain experience without any coding experience, but with domain experience. They jumping, they building new applications for
Love all 3 points. I mean, couldn't like I was thinking in my brain when you were talking about the first one, right? Interfaces changing. That was such a big point because like you said, iPhone changed everything. I was just recently reading about OpenAI's operator capabilities, right? We don't know if they will launch it, but just read about it and Claude's computers use. You've seen that, but the whole concept of like you can get stuff done using agents, using central interfaces. That is probably just going to boost it up. Like you probably will get stuff done on so many things, sites that you've never visited before, right? Using a central.
exactly.
Great. All right. So moving on to your perspectives on AI, what excites you most about AI? What do you think like the future is in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think like you said, this is sort of internet happening again. When internet came first time, I was doing my undergrad. I don't think I understood it much. So this is a new time when something as big as internet is happening. I think it will dramatically change the applications are built. It will dramatically change the adoption of AI tools from your MLEs to regular users. I am most excited about the concept I was telling you, where it's these domain experts, is these people with creativity, these creators who are not dependent on others to go build basically their application for them. I think it's a great leveler. It's something that it's a tool. Imagine you are running a marathon and you have been training for the basically last 10 years. So you have built a certain skill set. And then like it's productivity pill or something like this comes in, or like a shoe where it boosts your productivity dramatically. Now, yes, as someone who has been running marathon, you can leverage a little bit better, but the difference between that runner and a regular guy would actually like reduce. And this is what is going to happen with all these developments. It's a great leveler. It's a great weapon. If you use it, you can actually keep enhancing your skill set. You can keep actually be on the top of the edge. If you don't, then the world is going to catch up fast. The leveling will actually make you to the same level as everyone else.
Absolutely. So, what's your perspective in general about the AI ecosystem being built? I mean, you must be hearing these two, right? There's AI agents, AI teammates, applications like a bunch of these applications we talked about today are all adding AI functionality. So what do you think is happening?
I don't think any one of them will just completely replace other. There is a space and need for all of them. I think the first way will be when all of these they will solve standalone problems, and that will get you like 10x productivity boost. Then there will be the next wave where these three and like a lot of other similar AI concepts that will come up, they will interact with each other to get like another 10x boost. Think of your Teslas of the world right now. There is a lot of gain in self-driving that has happened without these cars talking to each other. Imagine 10 years from now, maybe 20 years from now, when these cars, they start talking to each other, you'll again see like another level of accuracy in this case. In the AI world, another level of productivity, another level of use cases that will open up because they are able to interact with each other. So I don't think like any of them will replace the whole ecosystem. I think all three of them will exist pretty soon, like in 1 to 2 years. You'll start seeing the application, the use cases where all three of them, they are actually working together to get to like a bigger use case.
Very cool. Yeah, haven't thought about that. Yeah, great to hear it. Mohit, this was great. A lot of good insights. If you're okay, I want to do a quick fire with you. I have a few questions. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. All right. So, first question: what are some big trends you're seeing in AI right now?
I think democratization, making it accessible to each and every user, doesn't matter what your role, what your persona is. So there is a tool out for you. There is something that you can go and leverage right now to build, to do your job more productively.
What's a recent trend in AI that you think is overhyped?
I think that bigger, larger model. I think from these larger LLM providers, they probably have to keep innovating. But in terms of using these models, I'm not convinced that you need to have hundreds of billions of parameters models for each and every use case. A few billion parameter models, sometimes even a few 100 million parameter models, can actually get you 98% accuracy, 98% precision for your use case. So I think we will settle down on some number. I don't know what that number would look like, but larger is better won't be the case for all the use cases.
What's your favorite AI application from the ones that you have used so far?
Glean and Cursor. Glean a tool for getting information across various sources within enterprise world. They also have a lot of agents, but I haven't personally used those agents. And Cursor, I recently started playing around with Cursor. I just built a Chrome extension yesterday in like less than 10 minutes with no knowledge about building a Chrome extension. I really love that.
Wow, I've been hearing a lot of Cursor being used to build applications. That's great to hear you did that too. So when you look at incumbent application companies versus new age AI application companies, any thoughts of who wins?
Yeah. I think the example we were discussing earlier, the marathon example, it's one of those things where these companies, they have like a huge edge. And until a couple of years back, it was pretty hard for new age companies to compete, fight with them. These incumbents have large markets, large financial power, huge development team. However, leveling field has happened. If they are able to iterate faster, if they are able to leverage them, they will still have that advantage. Generally, I'm not seeing that. Look up at Perplexity. Perplexity probably has like 1,000 or maybe 1/10,000 of team of other big search engines, and they are still launching probably at 10x rate. These companies are able to leverage these tools, then they will continue to have an advantage, and this will be a big weapon for them because they'll have like a lot more training data set to build better models. Personally, I'm seeing those cases far fewer. I'm seeing that it's a mindset thing. And that mindset change is happening very slowly compared with the newer age companies that are coming up. Even if it is not an AI company, even if they are solving some other problem, like this example of Cursor we were talking about, how much are they adopting these new tools? How much are they focusing on? How do I get 10x more productivity rather than hiring 10x more engineers? If big companies are able to, then they will leverage. I have low confidence in like most of the companies being able to.
Got it. On that note, Mohit, I wanted to say thank you. This has been an amazing session. A lot of good insights for the audience out here. I think for engineers, product managers, anybody building in tech, it's an absolutely fantastic time to build right now, is the message I got like from listening to everything that you were saying. Thank you for doing this with us.
Thank you, Deepak, for having me. It was a fun conversation.
All right, Mohit, take care. Bye.